Welcome back to Turkish series stars. Tonight we're unpacking a moment that cracked the polished surface of Istanbul's grandest film awards and let raw feelings spill into the room. It was one of those nights when cameras glittered, gowns shimmered, and everyone pretended they had their hearts under control. But behind the applause and the flashbulbs, a single announcement ripped through months of silence and turned a private story into the conversation of the entire city. For weeks, even months, Barış Baktaş had worked hard to disappear into the background. Fewer events. No lingering on carpets. No half-smiles for the gossip pages. He arrived at the ceremony as quietly as a shadow, sliding in through a side entrance under a dark coat, close-cropped beard neat but unshowy, eyes set to neutral. He chose a seat in the back, where the stage looked distant and safe, where he could clap politely and leave without fanfare. The early awards came and went with the usual pageantry. Barış nodded, applauded, folded and unfolded the program, the picture of calm. And then the host took a breath, teased the category, and said the name that rewrote the entire evening: the award goes to Yağmur Yüksel. A wave of sound rose up. It wasn't just cheers, there was pride, there was relief, there was the heavy rush of a career-altering triumph. The spotlight flared, and all at once the back of the hall felt very, very bright. Witnesses say the moment the syllables of her name hit the air, the stillness in Barış snapped. His shoulders tightened as if a string had been pulled, his jaw quivered for a fraction of a second, and his eyes found the stage like they had no other choice. You could see it passing through him, the collision of memory and reality, a storm arriving without warning. He tried to stand, then to sit, then to smooth his jacket as if that simple act could put his emotions back into their compartments. He moved toward the aisle, but halfway up he paused and leaned against the wall, one palm flat against the cool surface, the other hand trembling just enough for the cameras to catch. The clip would later loop 1,000 times online, the breath he couldn't quite steady, the half-swallowed blink, the look of a man wrestling with the past in front of a room that had no idea what to do with so much truth. A couple of friends, faces familiar only to those who know the industry's quiet network. Closed in, murmuring calm, trying to shield him from the lenses. But the moment had already escaped into the wild. People close to both of them will tell you that last year's breakup didn't fracture in public. It slipped away in pauses that lasted too long, in messages that came a day late, in plans that quietly drifted until they lost their shape. Once upon a time, their romance had been the city's favorite modern fairy tale. Two rising stars orbiting one another with warmth and wit, turning ordinary outings into small legends. But untended feelings curdled into misunderstandings, and unspoken fears grew into walls. When they finally parted, there was no grand scene, no door slam, just a slow falling away. And yet the bond never really dissolved. It stayed like a music cue that never finished, humming under everything they did. So when Yağmur's name was called, pride and pain arrived together for Barış. He had rooted for her even in silence. He knew the nights she had stayed late and the mornings she had started early. He knew the scenes that had taken everything out of her. And there she was, walking into the light in a gown that seemed to carry its own breeze, shoulders squared, smile collected, receiving a prize she had earned with every hour the world never saw. For him, that image was a double-edged joy for her, and the ache of all the things that had slipped beyond their grasp. The internet saw it, too. Even though he tried to slip away between categories, even though he kept his head down as he moved toward a side corridor, even though one of his friends offered a jacket to throw over his shoulders as a makeshift shield, the cameras were quicker. A fan captured a close-up on a phone from the balcony, the angle tilted, the sound distorted but the feeling sharp as glass. Within minutes, clips multiplied. By the end of the night, feeds were thick with edits, freeze frames, slow-motion moments, and captions that turned speculation into a sport. Some people called it proof that real love still leaves fingerprints. Others urged him to protect his peace and let the past stay where it is. Between those two waves, the comments pulsed with empathy, frustration, and 1,000 memories fans had attached to the couple over the years. And what about Yağmur? On stage, she was every inch the professional the industry knows her to be. She thanked her team first, naming the director whose notes sharpened every scene, the co-stars who held the frame steady, the crew who made the impossible look effortless. She talked about discipline and craft, about finding truth inside a character until it aches, about the strange grace of being believed by an audience. The speech was warm without being sentimental, prepared without feeling rehearsed. Yet those watching closely swear there was a flicker, the briefest glance over the sea of tables toward the back, a tiny pause between sentences like a heartbeat you suddenly notice. It was subtle, so quick you could almost doubt it, but not quite. Backstage, after the cameras cut to the next segment, she moved fast. She accepted hugs, posed for a handful of photos, and then slipped into a quieter corridor where publicists and friends formed a human buffer against the press. Questions rattled the air, about the performance, about what the award meant, about the next project, and she answered what she could with poise. But when the topic edged close to anything personal, her smile thinned and her manager stepped in. Later, among a circle of trusted friends, she let herself exhale. They say she sat with the statuette on the table in front of her, fingers resting on its base, eyes bright, voice low, trying to hold two truths at once. She had earned this, and she had seen him. Insiders tell us that what erupted in Barış was not a meltdown so much as a dam breaking. A friend who has known him long enough to recognize the difference put it simply, what you saw wasn't weakness, it was everything he never said showing up all at once. The friend described months of restraint, messages typed and erased, calls rehearsed and cancelled, a man who could deliver lines flawlessly on set but kept going mute when it mattered most in real life. It is a familiar story to anyone who has loved and lost in the glare of an audience. The world thinks you have answers because you look perfect in a photo. But the heart hasn't learned the script. As the ceremony continued, the moment refused to die down. Viewing parties stopped their chatter and replayed the clip on living room TVs. In cars headed home through late-night traffic, radios filled with callers offering their takes, half confessions tucked inside their opinions. By dawn, timelines were crowded with black and white edits set to aching ballads, with side-by-sides of happier days, with captions wondering if closure is a myth people tell themselves when they're too tired to keep hoping. The pair's chemistry? So obvious in old interviews, so easy to see in candid shots where they thought no one was looking, felt alive again, even though neither of them had said a single word in public. Then came the whisper that turned speculation into a cliffhanger. A message, sent in private after the show. Not a grand gesture, not flowers at a gate or a sunlit speech, but a simple text that carried the weight of a year. People who claim to know say it was long and unguarded, the kind of message that tries to build a bridge with honesty instead of charm. An apology was inside it, and gratitude, and a quiet wish for her peace whether or not he was a part of it. Did she answer? That part, for now, lives behind locked screens. Some say she read it more than once. Some say she typed and waited again. None of us know for sure, and maybe that uncertainty is kinder than an answer we're not ready to hear. The debates kept circling the same questions, which are really just one question with different faces. Was what we witnessed a testament to a love that never lost its shape, or a warning that the heart can only carry so much before it breaks? Should a person fight for what once was, or guard the ground they've finally found beneath their feet? The only clarity belonged to the work itself. The award in Yağmur's hands, heavy and gleaming, the applause that came from colleagues who had seen her push past limits, the rare honesty in a man who could not pretend in the one moment everyone expected him to. What happened at that ceremony did more than light up the blogs and feeds. It offered a brief, unscripted look at two people who have been turned into characters by the public gaze, reminding us that they bleed the same way anyone does when the past walks back into the room. The gowns and the gold signage and the cameras built a perfect stage, but the most powerful scene of the night wasn't written. It simply arrived and refused to be smoothed over. You didn't have to be a fan to recognize it. You only had to have lived long enough to know that winning and losing can arrive in the same breath, that joy can sit beside sorrow without either one apologizing for its presence. So where does this leave them? On separate paths that still seem to run near each other, at least for now. She steps into a new chapter with the city watching, award in hand, work ahead, a story that she is telling with every role. He returns to the quiet, or tries to, piecing together what to do with a tenderness that didn't vanish just because the calendar turned. Maybe they never speak again. Maybe they meet for coffee in a place that used to be theirs and talk like people who remember the same streets. Maybe they try again with clearer eyes. Or maybe they finally close the book, each grateful for the chapters they shared even as they write separate endings. Tell us what you think. Was Barry's visible crack on that wall a sign of a love that keeps its vow even in silence, or the final surge of a heart exhausted from holding back? Do you believe that time and grace could guide them toward one another again, or is the kindest thing a clean goodbye? And whose story should we explore next, as we keep tracking the most intimate tremors beneath the glittering surface of the industry? Share your thoughts below, and if you want to stay with us for more of these unforgettable, deeply human moments from the world of Turkish entertainment, like, subscribe, and keep your notifications on with Turkish series stars. This is where the spotlight turns soft, and the truth finds its way to the front row.